The Builder Project seeks to combine the power of one-to-one relationships with access, information, and opportunities available through the internet to engage students while they're moving through the school system and keep them connected to supports even when they're pushed out of the system.
Yes, and?
Joe, enter, is a 10th grader. He acts out and is resistant to school and the classroom. He thrives when his teachers give him one-to-one attention. He hates geometry, but he likes to construct things.
Yes, and?
Joe's builder, enter, is an adult facilitator who draws out Joe's interests. Yeah, there we go. And they look at each other. Ding! Helps him weigh his options and helps facilitate Joe's relationship with his teacher mentor, enter, who is in the school and helps Joe navigate the system.
Yes, and?
Joe's builder also introduces him to a job mentor, enter, outside of the school, who is able to expose Joe to the world of construction and show him how buildings are constructed using the principles of geometry, that subject he previously saw no use for.
Yes, and?
Joe's builder also encourages him to connect with a peer mentor, enter, who shares some of Joe's interests and can give him some tips and advice from a perspective Joe can relate to.
Yes, and?
The online aspect of the Builder Project means that Joe can connect with his support network whenever he needs them, even if they aren't in the same location.
Yes, and?
It also provides an opportunity for Joe to build an online portfolio with both private and public information tracking what works for Joe and what doesn't. Additionally, it provides him with positive feedback from his network that makes him feel recognized and helps support his self-confidence.
Yes, and?
The Builder Project provides 360 feedback opportunities across Joe's network to help everyone course correct and become more effective. And Joe's builder relationship doesn't end with high school. If he leaves the system, bye-bye. His builder keeps him connected to opportunities and can help him return when he's ready. When he graduates, his builder is there to support him in the transition to his next step, and who knows where their connection might support Joe to do what that connection might support Joe to do beyond that.
Scene.
Yes, and? You knew I had to say that. Although I want to say it with the same level of enthusiasm. Yes, and. Was that my ba-dum-bum? Yeah. I think what's so interesting about this is I think almost every group has thought about mentors. And so what I think was intriguing about what you did was you actually added layers to it. So I learned from Dale that's called plussing. So you've added some additional layers, and you had you clearly understood how students come in and out of the system, and that having that one constant, even if everything else changes, is critical. And I think we just keep hearing that over and over and over again. So I loved all of that. I'm just trying to think through what's kind of the first step to actually getting this really going. Because it's a great idea, and it's sort of the village, right? It's another version of the village.
Yeah, actually, before you respond, I just make a comment, and then it's kind of the same thing. But I think what's really fabulous about your project and related a little bit to the last one, it's really about the social application of technology. And what worries me often with a lot of educational technologies, we're just looking at the technology and as some kind of magic bullet. And I think considering how it can be used to maintain and develop these relationships among a group of people focused on a student, I think is really fabulous. Not easy, but it really is where we need to be thinking. And I don't know what's behind. Looking at your presentation, I don't know what's behind it, and so kind of the same question Suzanne has, but a really good center for the project.
I think what we're thinking is that the builder would be somebody who would be paid by an organization outside of schools, so that it would have one foot in and one foot out. And we were thinking about it in relationship to trying to start it as a pilot in a rural situation and a urban, because it's very different problems, so that there was a way for us to make mistakes and find problems. And that most of the other folks are already in place in communities. It would be hiring youth worker, builder type folks to do that kind of work, and to do the feedback underpinning, which is more of Brent's bailiwick.
So how would you, just if you were to do like the very first step for implementing this idea, so you've identified kind of target places, how would you find the builder and connect the builder first? Is it kind of an interest survey, or are they making you answer all the questions?
I think so,
You're
yeah.
doing great, just keep going and make stuff up, because they don't have the mic.
Yeah, okay. Could be my idea. I think if I were queen, well, just be me, it would be putting together, so I would start in a community that I already know, and find somebody else in a rural community that already knows, and put together a group of builders. So you would hire them, and would probably be folks that would be familiar with schools, but young enough to still remember what schools are like, and then go through a process of training folks and getting them out there into the school, and then working with specific schools that probably I would already have contacts with, and then start to work those relationships. So the builders, you'd have to start, I would say, you'd have to start with the builders and the feedback infrastructures, because the way we were thinking about it is the feedback undergirds the whole thing, that it's an opportunity for students, teachers, all of the mentors, to have constant, non-evaluative, non-scary feedback going on that then would inform the mentor situation around them.
A couple of related projects I know about is there's a build project. It's called out of East Palo Alto, Suzanne McKechnie-Clar. And I remember talking to her a bit about this. She started it because a group of students came there and said they were going to drop out of high school, but they had an idea for a business, and she said, well, if you stay in school, I help you develop the business. And she said, after doing it for years and years, and I had multiple sites around the country, what she discovered that the program's real value was connecting to the kids and meeting with them and asking them things like, what do you want to do? And it's really the caring part of that. She said that, the entrepreneurial part could come and go. It was just almost just an excuse to get together. So it's really something you're onto there, and I think it'd be interesting to study what they do in terms of, I think most of their builders are peers, just a few years older. The other big picture learning, I think, is another model of sending kids out of school into the community. So your job builder or your other things, as long as they don't have to go out to the community carrying those signs, I think it might work pretty well. Yeah, that might look a little awkward.
Oh, that's your inversion.
Yeah.
You said that's siftables? Yeah, I got it. And, I think the other thing that I was just curious about was, what was it that made you realize that the builder was the most important person? So the thing that I thought about, so I thought about build, actually, as well, but I also thought about Harlem Children's Zone. So, if you know that story, they just started out, with one block trying to get rid of a crack house, but eventually, every time they added more blocks to the Harlem Children's Zone, it was because the kids weren't quite ready to go from the Harlem Children's Zone supports. So they did, it was first pregnant women and working with them. They had their babies, so okay, now we're going to work with the babies. Now they're in pre-K. Okay, that's, they're not ready to just sort of be away from us yet. And on, and actually all the way up through college. They're trying to figure out, what do we do when the kids leave our neighborhood to go to college? And they were the builder, in a sense. So was there anything in particular that kind of sparked the builder concept for you guys?
I think it was because of the interviewee that we interviewed to start getting this idea, he liked being challenged in school, but the challenges were spotty, and he was getting a lot of pressure from his family to, he was from a working class family, to leave school, this was back in the 80s, leave high school and just go pursue this internship opportunity at like the shipping yards. So the family, convinced him to take the money opportunity because they didn't really see the value in education. So this whole idea that even if it was in a rural community like it was for him, that this idea of this builder would hopefully try to figure out a way to organize it so that they could finish the high school credentials as normal as well as do the internship, but if not, still be there in case, in this gentleman's case, the economy tanked and the shipping yard left. So he had this very specific skill set that was no longer applicable to his area where he was. So then he had to just kind of find his own way through life, kind of the idea of street cred. He was just taking random courses here and there that built interest and helped him for his immediate short-term goals, but it never resulted in a degree. So I think that's the idea of the builder, right, was just to have that anchor back into the education community or maybe the internship outreach community. Sure, go ahead.
And also, I think for the other guy that we interviewed, this notion that he lit up when his teachers would give him just any direct attention, and the teacher couldn't do that. And so could there be some way in which someone has direct attention whenever they need it?
Yeah. It just gets someone's got to figure out a unique way to leverage human resources more effectively in schools, and I think you're onto that. Thank you.
Oh, I had one thing. So so far I want to add like the first 3 presentations together, because it just seems like there's a lot of great synergy. So that's my big idea so far, but we're only on 3, so I'm ready.